Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here, as always, to really get under the skin of influence, how it's built, how it works.
And today we're doing something a bit different. We're stepping back from the huge historical figure, the founder of a nation.
Exactly. We're looking at Muhammad Ali Jinnah, but before all that, the young man, the barrister in Bombay, late 1800s, early 1900s, no Quaid-e-Azam yet.
It's crucial, this period, because if you only see the end point, the leader on the world stage, you miss the foundation. You miss how the credibility was painstakingly built.
He didn't just appear. Our sources really emphasize that long before the massive political leadership, he'd already forged something else.
A reputation, a really solid one.
Yeah, among everyone, peers, clients, even rivals. They saw discipline, dignity, a real adherence to principle.
And that reputation, you could argue, is the soil. That's where leadership actually grows.
All right.
We're looking at the seeds being planted way before the big harvest of power.
Reputation as the real currency. And he earned it the hard way, it seems, sticking to his guns, even when it wasn't popular.
Absolutely. Credibility was everything.
Okay, let's unpack this. The first thing that leaps out from the sources, the thing that made young Jinnah stand out in, well, what sounds like a pretty bustling Bombay scene, was his discipline. With a capital D, almost. It was visible. It projected something.
What's fascinating here is these qualities, punctuality, preparation, they might seem basic professional courtesy now.
Right. Expected, maybe.
But back then, in that specific context, they were powerful signals, indicators of deep character. And a lot of this seems imported directly from his time training in London at the Inns of Court.
Okay. He brought that rigor back with him.
Applied it relentlessly, almost like clockwork.
So let's break that discipline down. The sources point to 4 key pillars. First one, punctuality. Seems simple, but it was a statement.
A huge statement. Apparently, in the courts, maybe even in political circles then, being a bit late was almost normal. Maybe even a sign you were important, too busy.
Interesting. A different culture around time.
But Jinnah wouldn't play that game. Being on time wasn't just about efficiency for him.
It was symbolic.
Deeply symbolic. It signaled respect. For the court, the judge, the client, his own word. If he said 10 a.m., he meant 10 a.m., probably 9.55.
And that projects authority, doesn't it? Reliability down to the minute.
Think about the courtroom dynamic. If Jinnah's there, prepared, waiting, and the opposing counsel strolls in late.
It immediately puts them on the back foot, makes them look disorganized, disrespectful even.
Exactly. It's a subtle form of control.
Yeah.
Sources suggest judges even started being more mindful of time when Jinnah was arguing. Delaying him wasn't just inconvenient, it felt unprofessional.
Wow. So punctuality becomes this tool, this public marker of his standards.
Precisely. Which leads right into the second pillar, preparation. The sources are absolutely clear on this. He never, ever showed up unprepared.
Not just knowing the basics, but really mastering the details.
To an intimidating degree, it seems. His credibility wasn't built on soaring speeches or emotional pleas. It was built on facts, on law, on knowing the file inside out. Meticulous.
So his arguments were just, solid, airtight logic.
Left very little room for opposing counsel to find a crack. He anticipated arguments. He had the research. It essentially forced everyone else in the room to lift their game.
You couldn't afford to be sloppy against him.
Not if you wanted to stand a chance.
Yeah.
Judges, opponents, even clients had to be precise because they knew he would be. It armored him against surprises.
Okay, so punctuality, preparation.
Yeah.
Then the third pillar, appearance and manner.
Yes. Immaculate dress. Always. The tailored suits were famous. Refined manners. A very serious professional style.
The outward reflection of the inner discipline?
Completely. He carried himself like a statesman long before he held any major political office. It wasn't just vanity, it was a deliberate projection.
Projecting competence. High standards.
And seriousness. Gravitas. This wasn't just some lawyer trying to make a quick buck. This was someone engaged in serious constitutional or legal matters. That formality, learned in London, it created an aura. It demanded respect for the issue at hand.
It's all part of a cohesive package, isn't it?
Very much so. And the final piece of this discipline puzzle, maybe the most telling for his future in politics, focus over fluff.
Meaning?
He avoided idle talk, chit-chat, gossip. If it wasn't directly related to the case or the specific political point being debated, he just wasn't interested. Laser focus.
That's interesting because politics often involves a lot of, fluff, doesn't it? Networking, smoothing things over, a bit of rhetoric.
Absolutely. And you could argue this made him seem perhaps a bit aloof, maybe even cold to some.
Potentially. Did it hinder him socially or politically early on?
In the short term, maybe it cost him some easy alliances built on charm. But strategically, it positioned him differently. While others might get sidetracked by gossip or personality clashes, Jinnah remained fixed on the substance.
The objective authority figure.
Exactly. You couldn't distract him with irrelevancies. You had to meet him on the ground of facts, logic, law. It signaled this tremendous inner strength, almost intimidating.
So he sacrificed easy likability for deep respect.
And that respect, built on this unwavering discipline, was the foundation. Which brings us perfectly to the next big theme: honesty and integrity.
Right. Segment 2, the trust dividend. Now, integrity, honesty. You'd think that's table stakes. Why was it such a powerful, maybe even rare asset in his world?
Well, you have to place it historically. Late 19th, early 20th century India. Huge political change, colonial pressures, economic disparities. Influence could often depend on who you knew. Favors, sometimes outright corruption, wasn't uncommon.
A turbulent environment.
And in the legal world, tactics could sometimes involve trickery, dragging things out. Politically, opportunism was everywhere. So someone being rigorously straightforward, that was just nice. It was strategically valuable, highly disruptive even.
He became the reliable one in a sea of uncertainty.
You could trust his word. Let's look at the legal side first. Clients trusted him completely, apparently, because he was brutally honest.
No false promises. He wouldn't tell you you had a winning case if you didn't.
Exactly. Sources say he'd tell clients point blank if their case was weak. He'd even refuse potentially lucrative briefs if he felt they were legally unsound or maybe ethically dubious.
That takes guts. Turning away fees for principal.
But think long term. That lawyer who promises the moon might get the fee today, but their reputation suffers tomorrow. Jinnah built a reputation for being expensive, yes, but scrupulously honest. You paid for the unvarnished truth.
And that actually attracted the serious clients, the ones who valued honesty over false hope.
Precisely. Especially wealthy merchants, industrialists, people with a lot at stake. They wanted realism. This built immense loyalty and respect, even if his advice wasn't always what they wanted to hear initially.
What about his colleagues? Other barristers? How did they view this integrity?
It earned him immense respect there, too. When Jinnah argued, they knew they were facing the law and the facts. No tricks, no trying to pull the wool over the judge's eyes, no wasting time.
It elevates the whole game, doesn't it?
It fosters professionalism. Knowing your opponent is disciplined and honest forces you to be better too. It builds peer respect, which is absolutely vital when you start moving into broader political arenas.
Okay, so that's the legal sphere. What about integrity in politics? Speaking unwelcome truth, there can be career suicide.
And that's where the contrast with many contemporaries becomes stark. Politics then, as now, often involved rhetoric, playing to the crowd, maybe bending principles for political advantage. Jinnah seemed allergic to that.
He stuck to principle, to constitutional arguments.
Almost exclusively. Even when a particular stance was unpopular or went against the prevailing mood within, say, the Congress Party at the time.
Give us an example.
Well, if a resolution was popular emotionally but he felt it was legally flawed or constitutionally unsound, he'd stand up and say so. His colleagues might disagree, but they had to take his objections seriously.
Why? Because they knew his motive wasn't personal gain.
Exactly. They knew it wasn't about currying favor or appealing to a specific faction. It was based on his interpretation of the law, of constitutionalism. He became predictable, but in a good way.
Predictable in his principles.
You knew where he stood and why. And that kind of principled stand, it outlasts political fads. It's what turns a politician into a statesman. That integrity builds influence that survives shifting alliances.
So for you, the listener, thinking about your own path, establishing that rock-solid integrity early on, it pays dividends later, it creates influence that isn't easily shaken.
Absolutely, it's the long game.
This foundation of character, this discipline and integrity, it really becomes clear why it was so effective when we look at segment 3, how he positioned himself regarding the growing sectarian divisions.
Yes, this is crucial. Because later history focuses so intensely on partition, it's easy to forget his early, passionate commitment to Hindu-Muslim cooperation.
He saw a united front as the only way forward.
Unequivocally in this period. He entered politics not primarily as a Muslim leader, but as an Indian nationalist, aiming for self-rule for all Indians, a national statesman in the making.
So what specific actions demonstrated this? What sectarian trends was he pushing back against?
He consistently spoke out against divisive attitudes wherever they came from. For instance, he was initially opposed to the idea of separate electorates.
Why? Didn't they offer some protection to minority communities?
His argument at that time was that while separate electorates might offer a short-term sense of security, they fundamentally weakened the idea of a single Indian nation. They institutionalized division.
He saw it as counterproductive to the larger goal of independence.
Exactly. His core warning, repeated often, was logical, almost cold in its pragmatism. Division only helps the ruling power. The British could use divide and rule to maintain control indefinitely. Unity wasn't just a nice idea, it was a political necessity.
And this stance, it shaped his reputation beyond just Bombay.
It absolutely broadened his image. He wasn't seen as just representing Muslim interests. He was seen as a sharp, legal mind focused on constitutional progress for India as a whole.
Which must have caught the eye of established leaders.
It certainly did. This non-sectarian approach, combined with that razor-sharp intellect we talked about, gained him recognition from top figures across the political spectrum. And the most significant endorsement, that came from Gopal Krishna Gokhale.
Okay, let's pause there. Remind us, who was Gokhale and why was his opinion so important?
Gokhale was a giant, a senior leader in the Indian National Congress, hugely respected, known as a moderate and intellectual, deeply committed to constitutional methods. He was like a mentor figure to many.
So his endorsement carried enormous weight.
Absolutely. For Gokhale to praise a younger figure meant that person was considered exceptional, trustworthy on a national level.
And Gokhale's famous line about Jinnah was,
He called him the best ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity.
wow, ambassador of unity. Coming from Gokhale, that's about as strong a validation as you could get at that time.
It cemented his position. It wasn't just Gokhale either. Other leaders acknowledged his legal skills, his sense of justice. It meant he got included in important committees, delegations.
Even though he was relatively young.
Yes, but because his credibility was so high, his discipline, his integrity, his non-sectarian focus made him seem indispensable for tackling complex constitutional questions.
So his influence wasn't about shouting the loudest or having the biggest rallies?
Not at all. It was the weight of his arguments, backed by that solid reputation. When he spoke, people listened, even if they disagreed, because they trusted the source. The integrity magnified the message.
That trust dividend again, it gave him influence beyond his formal position.
It made him a key player in those early legislative efforts, much earlier than his age might suggest.
Okay, so we've looked at the external stuff, the discipline, the integrity, the strategic positioning. But what fueled all this? What was going on inside? Segment 4, the inner qualities of enduring leadership.
Right, because those outward actions don't just happen. They have to be driven by something deeper. Internal strengths that kept him on that rigid path, even when compromise looked easier or more rewarding.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources suggest 3 essential seeds deep within his character. Let's start with patience.
Patience, demonstrated by his willingness to just put in the years, grinding out smaller legal cases, engaging in detailed, often unglamorous legislative work. This wasn't an overnight success story.
We see the endpoint, the nation builder, but forget the decades of meticulous groundwork, case by case, amendment by amendment.
Exactly. He required immense staying power. He wasn't chasing quick headlines or immediate victories. He was building, brick by brick. That showed he was in it for the long haul.
Which signals a certain kind of temperament, doesn't it? Immune to panic.
Yes, immune to the short-term pressures that often derail politicians who are just thinking about the next election. He had a much longer view, rooted in that patience.
Okay, patience, the second seed. Principle. We touched on the reputation for integrity, but this is about the internal commitment, the refusal to compromise, even when it hurt.
This is where the internal struggle must have been immense. Jinnah became incredibly wealthy as a barrister. Huge fees. Maintaining principle sometimes meant saying no to very rich clients.
If their case felt wrong, morally or legally shaky.
Precisely. Or in politics, refusing to jump on a popular bandwagon if he felt it violated constitutional principles. Every time he made one of those hard choices, turning down money or easy popularity.
He reinforced his own internal compass.
Exactly. He became predictable in his adherence to principle. Even opponents could rely on his actions being rooted in a consistent legal and ethical framework. That builds a different kind of trust, a deeper kind.
And the third seed, perseverance.
Shown particularly in that difficult, painstaking work of trying to build trust between communities, especially as political tensions started rising.
Unity wasn't just a slogan for him then, it was hard work.
Constant grinding work. He had to continually prove his commitment to the broader national cause, navigating the complex, often fraught relationships between Congress, the Muslim League, which he joined later, importantly, and the British.
Choosing unity was the harder path, wasn't it? Fragmentation might have offered an easier, quicker route to a dedicated power base.
Arguably, yes. In the short term, appealing directly to one community might have been simpler. He chose the more complex, demanding path of trying to bridge divides, requiring genuine perseverance against growing odds.
So when you put them together, patience, principle, perseverance.
Those are the internal engines. They made the external reputation for discipline and integrity authentic, real, not just a performance. And that's why it was so credible to those around him.
Right. Okay, we've dissected the man, the reputation, the inner qualities. Let's bring it home in segment 5. What are the timeless lessons here? What can someone listening today take away from Jinnah's early years?
Well, the first big one, I think, is crystal clear. Reputation is destiny. Your character, how people perceive your integrity and competence, that's the absolute foundation for any real leadership.
You don't wait for the fancy title to start acting like a leader. You build the character first, and that reputation walks into the room ahead of you. It shapes how people react before you even speak.
It's the silent partner in every interaction. Lesson 2. Flowing straight from his meticulousness, discipline creates authority. Real authority isn't just handed to you with a job title.
It's earned by being reliable, prepared, respecting time, respecting the process.
If you're consistently the most prepared person, the one who meets commitments, you naturally command respect. You don't have to demand authority, you embody it. And that discipline, it often forces others to raise their own standards too.
And the third lesson, a crucial one maybe, for today's often volatile political climate.
Principle outlasts popularity. Slogans, quick wins, bursts of public approval, they fade. Especially when tested by reality or the passage of time.
We see it constantly. Political winds shift, public opinion changes. What endures?
A reputation built on solid principle, on integrity. That's the anchor. It allows you to navigate storms, to maintain influence, even when your stance isn't the popular one of the moment. It keeps you focused on the long-term goal, not just the immediate applause.
Substance over spectacle.
That's the essence of it. These are enduring lessons.
So let's wrap up with where this leaves Jinnah. We're closing this chapter around 1910. What's the status update?
By 1910, he's definitely arrived. Not just a rich, successful lawyer, though he was certainly that. He's a respected legislator, a voice of reason, a figure known for discipline and integrity, recognized by Congress, the nascent Muslim League, even the British administration.
The seeds we talked about, patience, principle, discipline, they're firmly planted, their roots are down.
Deeply rooted in the soil of Bombay's legal and political world. But that foundation is about to be severely tested.
Because history doesn't stand still. The context is shifting rapidly. Mass politics are emerging. Constitutional debates are intensifying.
And the unity he championed is starting to fray under immense pressure.
This raises an important question. Can those seeds, planted so carefully in the soil of principle and discipline, actually survive the coming storm?
Can they withstand the hurricane of political division, constitutional breakdown, and the kind of personal sacrifice that the next phase of the independence struggle will demand?
That integrity, that non-sectarian stance, which was his great strength in building cross-community trust.
Yeah.
Could it become a liability as lines harden and everyone is forced to choose a side?
It's a profound challenge. The disciplined constitutional lawyer is about to face the messy, often brutal realities of mass political mobilization and irreconcilable demands.
So we close this deep dive having seen the meticulous construction of character before the full weight of power and historical crisis descended.
The journey from Goke's ambassador of unity to the leader who would eventually advocate for and achieve a separate nation. That path is fraught with these tensions. It starts right here, though, with this foundational character.
A powerful reminder, really. Before you can hope to lead anyone else, the first challenge is mastering yourself. Building that internal foundation, that seems to be what allows leaders to endure whatever history throws at them.
Well said.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.